Hello and welcome to the DME podcast, brought to you by DME, the podcast booking platform. Whether you're a podcaster or an aspiring guest, the DME app is a perfect platform for you to get booked and manage your podcast bookings. I'm your host, Sukhay, the founder of DME, and on this podcast we'll be discussing the latest news and views in tech, the ins and outs of entrepreneurship, and even dipping our toes into the adrenaline-filled world of mixed martial arts. This week, we're speaking to lifelong programmer, technologist, entrepreneur, and co-founder of DME, Hari Ramamurthy. Hari gives us a breakdown of all things AI, or artificial intelligence, technically uninitiated. We talk about the basics of AI, what it is and what it isn't, how it differs from other computing systems. We then look at some of the use cases and the dangers of AI and how founded or unfounded they may be. Now, we could have carried out this conversation for hours, and no doubt we'll do some follow-ups in the coming months. But if you're new to AI or keen to learn more, this episode is a must. So please enjoy Hari Ramamurthy. Hari Ramamurthy, welcome to the DME podcast.
Thank you for having me over.
Yeah, well, taken long enough to try to do this one. Because you've been asking me for months.
I know. We're finally here.
Just to introduce yourself to the audience, Hari is the CTO of DME and our co-founder and a lifelong technologist.
Absolutely. So I've been programming for 24 good years, I think. Earlier than that, I started coding at the age of 12 with my first ZX Spectrum. I still remember that. Life has evolved since then, of course. Built a number of businesses. Previously co-founded a business called Simply Cook in the food realm.
Right.
Online subscription service, sold that to Nestle, and then had the opportunity to guide another firm, Cufflink, which is in the fintech realm, and now here I am with DME. So looking forward to this opportunity.
Great. I didn't necessarily want to talk about DME for this one because I think the buzz around the industry for the last 12 to 18 months has been AI or artificial intelligence. And it seems to be anywhere and everywhere, and everyone seems to be claiming to know what it is or has an opinion on it. So I thought we'd get on and give us your opinion from a 24-year-old experience, not 24 years old anymore, 24 years of experience in the tech world. How do you interpret AI and what is AI?
Believe it or not, it's funny, but AI has actually been there for a while. And I call this the ChatGPT effect.
Right.
Because what ChatGPT has done is brought AI to the forefront of normal consumers.
Okay.
But we have been using AI since 2002 in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, explain.
So we must have, you guys, if you're working in tech, or you might have heard about terms like deep learning, machine learning. So these are all subsets of AI.
Right.
And these are building blocks of AI. AI wouldn't be possible without these sub-elements, so as to speak. What is AI at the end of the day? When we talk about artificial intelligence, you basically try to make decisions based on the experiences and the information that you have at hand.
Right.
If you break down a computer at the very basic level, let's even forget computers for a second. Let's break down how our brain operates at a very basic level. Our brain is comprised of multiple circuits, and these are called as decision trees. So if you were to take a cross section of your brain, there's actually it's a interwoven mesh. It's a net. Each and every part where the net connects with another sort of thread, it's a decision element. You pass in a piece of information that requires a decision. The net will then make you got choices at every given point of time. You got choices. You make one choice, it leads to another node, so as to speak.
Right.
That leads to another group of choices. So if you think about it, when information passes through your brain, it goes from one end to the other. There's no guarantee that it's going to follow a straight line. Mm-hmm. It might take a very random path based on what you have been programmed with, i.e. your experience, your upbringing, perhaps your experiences with life, your knowledge, and all of that combines into a very complex sort of machine-driven algorithm. That's how our brain works. Now, funny enough, when we build systems, we build with human beings at the center of it. It's not the other way around. We actually place ourselves in the middle of the system and build everything around it. So AI is actually a mirror image of how a human being would perform in the computer realm. So each and every one of these elements, these nodes, which has been programmed, or perhaps it has made a decision from the past, has learned. And this is the basis of machine learning. Machine learning just allows you the ability to learn from past experiences. Tons and tons of data. When I say tons and tons of data, it's not one book or two books or three books. We're talking about gazillions of pages of data.
Right.
And that decision is being made in a fraction of a second. That's all machine learning. AI takes it to the next level, where you have multiple machine learning algorithms working in tandem with each other, and it keeps on learning from each and every decision. It's quite complex.
Yeah, because you just fried my brain now. So are you saying that AI is trying to mimic the human brain, or are you saying that humans are machines?
That's a very interesting question that you ask. I think at this point of time, we are trying to emulate how human beings would work in the virtual realm. So AI is a mirror image of the human element, not the other way around.
Right.
We are building it in our image as opposed to it being an entity in its own.
Right. Okay. So if AI is only as good as the data that it's been fed off, and obviously humans are feeding the data.
Yeah.
What are some of the data sources that AI models at the moment, like the ChatGPTs and the many others that exist at the moment? Where are they getting their data from?
That's a very good question. So this is where we have to actually democratize the information source for someone like Chat. So something, I'm saying someone, at some stage you might actually refer to that as someone. But that's something, we need to understand where the data is coming from. There's a saying in computer science, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing with ChatGPT or any other AI system that is out there. There are plenty of AI systems right now.
Yeah.
Your system is as good as the information that you feed. Very simple example. We go to the supermarket, the shopping list. Mm-hmm. If your shopping list is incorrect, the things that you're going to get for your sustenance is not going to be something that is worthwhile, your cause. It's similar to that. If you feed garbage into the AI system, the information that you get and the further decisions taken based on that information will be incorrect.
Right.
If my mathematical model tells my AI 1 + 1 = 3, then all subsequent additions, all subsequent mathematical formulas that will be derived will be based on 1 + 1 = 3, because that's the axiom that I've actually fed into the system.
Okay, that's interesting. So one of the things that I've always thought about, and there's been a lot of doom mongering around AI and how it's become intelligent and it will become essentially Skynet and replace and think that it can live without humans. One of the things I thought was, well, if we don't program, all things need power, right?
Yeah.
Fundamentally, right? They all need electricity and they need power to operate. So if you didn't give AI the concept of power, you could actually have a kill switch. Is that the right line of thinking, or am I it's just trying a little bit too much there?
At this point of time, that will be a correct assessment. And I say at this point of time, the reason why I say at this point of time is because computers in general works on the basis of an on and off switch.
Yeah.
So at the very basic level, a computer can only understand ones and zeros. 1 represents electricity is passing through a circuit. 0 represents there's no electricity whatsoever. And based on those sort of billions of transactions, one piece of code is constructed. 10100001. That Morse code kind of thing, that is actually one instruction. So imagine those many instructions. It needs a lot of superpower to actually compute that.
Yeah.
At this point of time, we are talking about hardware, which has evolved quite a lot. If you look at NVIDIA and all these chip manufacturing companies, they are right now manufacturing chips which are faster, which are the processing speed is incredible. They're smaller, so they can be fit into tiny hardware. So given the hardware that we have right now, yes, that is the truth. Like if there's no electricity, you can't turn off AI. But imagine a world. So I'm going to now mix two different worlds. Okay, we have the AI, which is what we are talking about right now, which is in the sub level. Mm-hmm. But then there's something much more real, which is nanotechnology. Now, nanotechnology says that everything is made up of matter. So we're looking at this table. is built up of matter. If I actually break it down to its atomic level, I can then reform it into anything that I see fit. I can convert one matter to another.
Right.
Now, if you combine the two together, and if AI became self-aware, given the rules of engagement, and then it had the capability of questioning those rules of engagement, then it does become, in some way, shape, or form, Skynet. Will that happen in my lifetime? Probably not. But in a different realm, it is possible.
Yeah, so if AI is, for one of the, say, the ChatGPT model, another model is reading all the contents of the internet and all the contents of any kind of digital content that's ever been created ever, then it will obviously, even though the programmers at the start of it may not have given it the parameter of power, it could go and find it and then understand, working backwards, that this is how a computer works, and put it roll backwards and actually, well, the computer needs power, therefore I need power.
It could. Yeah. If it understands the concept of power, then yes, it could kind of work backwards and at least understand it. Whether it can create it or not, whether it can influence a power system or not, that is another matter, but at least it can understand. Because the software is as good. There's no feedback to actually switch off or switch on a particular circuit, as an example.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the ability to actually overfry the circuit. If I want to take a lot more power from you to make my computational speed work, it is going to be kind of like limited with the RAM and the ROM which is provided there. And the maximum that can happen is that it exhausts the memory, and then in the background you've got a fail-safe which basically says your software doesn't have enough memory to actually perform this computation. So it's the same as ours. We have got sensory limitations.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, our senses, our ears, eyes, nose, tongue, and skin. Our eyes, our ears, as an example, can only hear between 20,000 hertz and 20 hertz. What is there no sound below 20 hertz? So there is. Is there nothing beyond 20,000? There is. Can we hear it? No, we're limited by our hardware, which is here.
Right.
So that's where you're sort of putting the boundaries around your AI, because AI still is a software.
Yeah.
And that's where the boundary lies. For it to perform more and more computations, it needs more hardware. It needs more resource. If I limit that resource, it doesn't have the limbs or the arms to actually go and grab that resource. It still requires a human intervention element there.
I've been kind of hearing for the last few years about quantum computing.
Yes.
And how they're trying to crack that. So is that a potential, the next great leap forward in AI models?
Yes, it is. It is an interesting one, because in the quantum world, the way that mechanics work in the real world is very different to what happens in the quantum world. You have Heisenberg's uncertainty principles, you have particles which seem to appear and disappear.
Yeah.
It's almost like science fiction. If you think about it, there's teleportation.
Definitely sounding like science fiction.
It is. It is very science fiction. And the truth is that it's reality, it's science.
Yeah.
So maybe at some stage you could combine multiple fields into one, and you could think about Star Trek, beaming people, beaming up Scotty kind of civilizations.
I think we're all waiting for teleportation.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So kind of drawing it back to the real world. So I think ChatGPT has been launched about 18 months ago, in November of 22, I think it was.
Yeah.
Give or take. And that was kind of the big marketing and branding exposure for how it kind of made it useful for people outside the technology, the average user. And I was at a talk given by a few Birmingham uni lecturers last week, and they were talking about real-world applications. They were talking about AI in the criminal justice world.
Yep.
And police forces using AI, and then social services using AI. And then we're talking about, we can use AI to kind of make better decisions about how we treat cases, spot crime patterns quicker and easier, etc., etc. I kind of left that thinking, AI in the power of these guys is, in the hands of these guys, is probably a little bit too much power. And I wouldn't necessarily trust government officials to use AI ethically. Is that the dangers of it? AI could, obviously, there's a criminal element to it as well, because I think you also heard a story. I'm not sure how true it is, but it was a finance guy in a Singapore bank. They got an email from his boss, and it said, transfer $2 million to this account urgently, blah, blah, blah. I kind of spotted it as a phishing scam and kind of called the CEO. I didn't call the CEO, kind of messaged him on Teams or Slack or whatever the channel was,
there's, I've had this request, it sounds like a phishing going off. No, it's genuine. He goes, can we meet in person to discuss it? He said, no, I'm not available, but we can jump on a virtual call.
Whoa.
So the guy the CEO sent him a link, and he kind of clicked the link and opened up a Zoom or a chat, and video was on. The CEO was there, together with 3 or 4 other colleagues. Whether they thought, we'll receive this email, ask me to make a payment. Yes, we need to make that payment immediately, please. It's a highly confidential matter, blah, blah, blah. And the guy goes, okay. And there's a presence of all his colleagues. The man made the transaction. Discovered as a fraudulent transaction, and the call was actually all AI generated with one's colleagues' faces and his CEO's voice and face as well. So there's the nefarious side of it, which will definitely be exploited, and these kind of technologies always are. But I was also worried about those real-world applications for government organisations, how they're using AI and to kind of spy on citizens more than anything.
Yeah,
because obviously, well, my thoughts on that was, if you put the power of decision making in a computer, the natural human instinct will be, well, computer told me to do it.
Yeah.
So how are some of the ethical boundaries around AI like to be managed in your opinion?
It's a difficult one to answer. And the reason why I say it's a difficult one to answer is that with any new technology or any new product, it doesn't have to be technology driven. You have the dark side, which sort of exploits or has faster legs to actually leverage that system in the first place. It always is the case.
Yeah.
And the governments, the authorities always play catch up.
Yeah.
And it's usually quite late. By the time they get to that state, everything has been done and dusted. The people who were, or the organizations which were leveraging the sort of system-based vulnerabilities have taken it a bit too far, and they're probably even faster and further than where we want to get to.
Yeah.
Having said that, when we are talking about organizations, especially government organizations, trying to implement AI-based systems within their working environment, there has to be a phase which I refer to as hand-holding. So even for the AI to perform better, it needs to understand what the existing methodologies are. So things like pattern recognition, it's a very computer-driven methodology.
Yeah.
And we use that in segmenting users. One of the most popular ones is marketing.
Yeah.
Okay, when they're marketing to people, we use pattern recognition, we use segmentation to create blocks of people, chunks of people. And we have messages specifically for those groups of people the way that they want to behave. Now, those kind of low touch point, what I would say, essential, sort of very low touch point kind of things that we're looking at, I believe that's the first point that the government should actually look at.
Right.
Rather than implementing it on a massive scale, maybe I should think about maybe using it in immigration as people are coming through the gates.
Yeah.
It does pattern recognition, facial recognition of the people who are just walking through the gates, and then it tries to make a real-time assessment of what is behind this person. Well, in those circumstances, it requires a lot more training.
Yeah.
The second part is, how do you actually use that data and store that data? So if you think of the normal world right now, privacy policies, cookie policies, when I'm browsing a site, how long is the cookie going to be active for? Similarly, there has to be laws that govern holding and processing data of this scale, because data of this scale is actually quite powerful.
Yeah.
Human beings will be better read by machines than us ourselves.
Yeah.
Machines will know more about us because they know our entire history. The kind of processing power that you're talking about, they can make decisions within a fraction of a second, and probably even show me an ad as I'm walking through the airport, which will probably suck me into buying something just because it understands my mindset. So hence, it's very essential that before we implement such systems in the real world, there has to be some laws guiding these principles. So I remember, what was that film again? I can't remember. I Am Legend, Will Smith? Yes. So there was a guiding principles of how a robot should be built, that the robot can't actually, can never sort of hurt a human being. So we need to come up with some comprehensive guiding principles for any AI-based system. So this is where your IEEE or whosoever the powers that be needs to take a look at the technology itself. And I think ChatGPT is already quite far ahead. If you think about it, the regulators are still playing catch up. Wills, think about anything which is process-driven, question-answer driven.
Yeah.
You would question, why are human beings needed now? You know, if everything can be done based on a question answering system, it's just a matter of a flowchart. It's just a lot of data, which computers can probably actually process faster than human beings.
Yeah, well, this is kind of how I always saw the real world applications of AI. I mean, you had the early technology revolution and even say some of the automation stuff when it comes to cars and lorries, etc. And everyone's like, oh, well, the lorry driving employs X many millions of people and taxi driving employs so many people, then they're going to become out of work and they become redundant. But do we actually let that happen? I think it's going to happen. It's an inevitability. So I think what AI is going to do is start attacking the white collar jobs.
Yeah.
And there's so many jobs in lots of corporations. We've probably both seen all the various corporations we work for. There's a huge percentage of a workforce that does process-driven jobs.
Yeah.
Whether it's processing invoices or processing another part of the business, and it's okay, I get input from over here, I do something to it as a worker, and I put it in another system over here. Then what I think CTOs and executives of companies will quickly do, they're okay, how many, the business case for any kind of new project or implementation of technology in any business is how many FTE will it save me?
Yes, absolutely.
And I think AI will kind of accelerate that. I don't think they're there yet, and I don't think from the people I've spoken to, the organisations I've worked in, I don't think they fully understand what capability AI has and how it can be applied to them. But I think the AI companies that tackle the corporate world will kind of win this best. Have you kind of seen, in your experiences, have you kind of seen any of the corporates kind of dabbling into AI just yet? I think they're all using the terminology and making the right noises about it, but I'm not seeing anything physically actually implemented anywhere yet.
Yes, I think there's the closest that I've actually come to seeing a corporation actually implement AI within their systems and their processes is, I come from a coding background. I'm a programmer at the end of the day, so I code quite a lot. And one of the things that we do as programmers is something called peer review.
Yeah.
I write a piece of code and I ask a fellow programmer to have a look at my code and say, hey, can you spot any things that I've missed out? I'm just going to chat to you about it. And maybe I find something within my code itself. It's a really good process, and it helps me understand my own code better than a third party looking at it. Now, funny enough, I run my code reviews through Microsoft Copilot. Now, this is not an ad for Microsoft Copilot, by the way, just to let you guys know.
Yeah, they're not an official sponsor, unfortunately.
So it's integrated with GitHub, and it's a brilliant tool because the moment I actually put a piece of code for review, it gives me a good summary of what that code is supposed to do. It looks at my tests, and then it writes a really nice paragraph at the top with regards to the commentary of that piece of code. And what would have probably in the past taken me a couple of days gets done in a couple of minutes.
Wow.
So you can see that there's a massive time and cost-saving element there. Is there a case for this particular piece of code or this particular process being officially launched in a corporate world? Probably there is, but I think there are other elements to be looked at. For example, you're looking at standards, ISO 27001 and other standards. Those standards still rely on a human element doing a code review. That's what the official documentation says.
Okay.
They've not yet taken into account that AI can actually replace those processes, maybe because they're still taking a view on, is it actually an effective system? Mm-hmm. At some stage, when we have these systems and processes being given a check by a higher up authority, then you will have a new standard, which will be ISO 27001. It might be ISO 27000 AI. You never know. Yeah. So there's one is saying that it's going to actually sort of make a lot of other roles redundant. There's a whole new world for others to come and take that over.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I can see companies doing, because I think most businesses, large corporates, multinational, even just locally, they're very protective of their data.
Yeah.
So what I think the companies that will kind of crack that corporate model are the ones who can segment an AI model and say, let's feed it on your data within your company, because companies that have been going for 20 plus years, for example, they'll have terabytes upon terabytes of data, whether that's emails, whether that's just normal documents and share policies, procedures, however that may be. And I think the way some people crack it is just go, right, here's an AI model.
Yep.
We're going to stick it on a server for 6 months in your organization. So the data's never released. You don't have to worry about that. It's all your data.
Yeah.
But what you can do is just have my company X AI bot that your new starters can come in, and rather than spending 2 weeks on an induction course and all the costs that are associated with that, they can just go, here's my chatbot co-pilot, right? How do I, for HR, how do I book time booking off? Perfect. Here's your form. And who do you want it in the background? There's read all the documents. It understands who your line manager is, and it goes away and comes back with an answer in 2 minutes. Yes, your annual leave is booked. There you go. Right, that's saved the learning and development team
100%
a few weeks to come and come up with that policy, and it can probably be updated very quickly as well.
That's actually a brilliant use case for AI, and because the AI can be connected to the internet and it can be connected to the latest that is going on in the compliance of that particular realm, of that particular area, you're always up to date with the information which is in the outside world. Real world scenario. So Google recently sort of changed their policies with regards to advertising, their Google ads. And one of the clients that I worked for, their marketing team sort of missed out on that update.
Yeah.
And they lost their account.
Oh, wow.
Now, here's a real-world AI use case again. If we had AI that was constantly monitoring the Google Ads account for any of the policy violations, it would be brought forth to light and some possible ways to fix it, and you would never lose your Google Ads account. So, again,
it de-risks a lot of your business operations. Yeah. So I'm just thinking, obviously, having a background in corporate IT for the last 20 years, you'll see the very basics, it's someone's job every year to update the licenses and make sure the licenses are all correct. Certificate on the website doesn't run out, and then inevitably someone always forgets or someone's on leave when that's meant to happen. But if you can automate that, and you got AI actually actively looking at those things, and if there are policy changes or changes that go on in the real world, you can actually feed that in, and it's all visible. So
100%.
I mean, we could talk forever on this topic. But yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to add on this? I think we'll probably revisit this topic every so often, because I think it's an ever-changing world and it's moving at a great pace.
Definitely. I mean, there's a lot of... the one thing that I do notice with AI is there is a lot of backlash towards AI as well. And it's predominantly to do with whether I'm going to lose my job.
Yes.
So it's a very important topic that we actually try and understand what's going on. Are there going to be loss of jobs? Yes, that's the truth. I mean, there's no way of putting that message out there. There's a lot of process-driven jobs out there which can be automated.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to necessarily be AI. You can use the AI label on top of it. It doesn't have to be. It could be just a system that is doing it. Having said that, with the increase in the use of AI, the acceptance of AI, there's a whole new realm of other jobs that people could actually be tapping into. Very simple one. How do you effectively talk to ChatGPT?
Yeah.
How do you effectively talk to Bard? So there's a way of actually talking to them to get the best answers and the best responses out of it.
Oh, that's called
prompt engineering. Correct. Yeah. It's called prompt engineering.
Yeah.
So it's an absolutely, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's new. And it's out there to make your lives easier.
It's a skill in its own right.
It's a skill. It's absolutely a skill. And the more you actually implement it, you can actually train your individual chat screens on ChatGPT to perform a specific task. So imagine you have 5 chat screens. Mm-hmm. You can literally have each and every chat screen specifically programmed to do one of your tasks. And the more more experience you give it, the better it gets. Very simple. I'm going to use a company's name here, eBay. So if you look at eBay and they've got multiple products, you've got buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
Sellers are actively putting their products up there. So they might have maybe a box of shoes or perhaps a bag or baby stuff that they're looking to sell on eBay. When they upload these products, I'm not saying that they do this deliberately, but could happen by chance, that when they're uploading a handbag, they put it under the category of shoes.
Right.
The description is that of a handbag, but the category is shoes. Now, a potential buyer who's looking for that product might see the product, but it's a completely different ballgame as to what they were looking for. So to minimize such errors, eBay uses something called taxonomy. It's a very popular sort of process that is in e-commerce, where you're looking at multiple products and you're trying to allocate the right category, subcategory for the product. Now that could become one of AI's subtasks. Every time you look at an image, every time you look at the product description, categorize it in the best possible manner. This saves a lot of hassle, a lot of time, and then at the same time, the buyer gets a good experience.
That's why they've been making us do the captures for years, haven't they?
Yes.
To train their AI models.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think we could talk about this forever, and we probably will. But I think we'll leave some future use cases for the next developments in the AI world. But Hari, thank you for doing the podcast.
Thank you for having me over. It was a pleasure.